See if we get this working. It always takes a minute for YouTube to start letting people know these are going, so hopefully we are working now. I apologize, there's probably going to be some kind of noise. All right, let me know if we're working. If we got sound in, we should have some other probably like outside noises coming in, but let me know if you can hear me. Put something in the chat. I think the chat should be active. Post something. Let me know. I think the chat is active. Let me see. Actually, I don't know if... Yeah, I think the chat should be active. Anyway, let me know, but it's good to see you. Today I want to try to take 15 minutes. Okay, all right. It looks like we are working. So this video will probably be longer than 15 minutes, but I want to just spend the first 15 minutes really giving you a good lesson, explaining what fluency is, how it works, and why you should be learning a certain way. Arturo, nice to see you there. It's good to see everybody back here again. I'm Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. And in this video, we are going to talk about really fluency and what you should be doing if you only have a few minutes today or any day to be learning English. So I will try not to be distracted by the chat, and then I will come back after I'm done. I want to get through a bunch of these so we make sure we can cover everything in about 15 minutes, and then I'll be able to answer questions after that. So I'm not ignoring anybody, but go ahead and post your questions if you have them. And then after I finish this, we'll go back and take a look. All right, so I want to talk about just like a few very simple facts about fluency and how this, understanding this about fluency changes the way we learn or what we should be doing with our time. Because your time is the most important thing that you have, and if you're not using it effectively or efficiently, so efficiently meaning you're getting the result you want without wasting a lot of time or wasting a lot of resources. So just some very simple facts about fluency. So fact number one is that fluency is like a unique skill, just communicating in a different language. So fluency is a unique skill, or a very specific kind of skill. So you might think about, when people think about developing fluency, they think about practice. And practice is a little bit different from something like learning an instrument. So if I'm going to practice an instrument, like if I want to learn to play the guitar or the piano or something like that, number one, I can usually do this by myself. And number two, I'm taking something and like learning a kind of, learning to play a song or something like that. But it's basically one thing, and I can get better at doing that as I repeat that process over and over. All right, so everybody understands how this works. If I want to learn the guitar, then I would get a guitar and practice playing with the guitar. And as I practice over time, I will get better at that thing. And even if I'm just doing it by myself, I'm sitting in my room, I'm learning to play the guitar. So this is what people usually think of about practicing something like that. But fluency is different than this. And the reason it's different is because it involves other people. So real communication in everyday life involves other people. So we have something where we need to develop a skill, like learning to play the piano or playing the guitar, but it's not something where we're doing it by ourselves. And our ability to communicate depends on how well we can understand and react to other people in a conversation. So this is why you can't really practice a language the same way you would practice an instrument. All right, so I can't learn like kind of one song and then I can maybe play that or sing that well or something. But in a conversation, it's dynamic. So we need to be spontaneous and we need to understand people and respond quickly. All right, so this is why communication, it doesn't matter what the language is, but communication is a unique skill. all right? So it's a unique kind of skill. There could be other things that are similar. I just want to focus on fluency here. But the point is, it's not something where you just take something and practice, like you learn one phrase and practice that again and again. That doesn't make you fluent in conversations. Does everybody understand that so far? So I can learn a phrase in English, and then in a conversation, I could be talking about something and natives use something completely different. Okay? So this is why, like in a classroom, you might think about learning English like this, where you get a phrase, some word or phrase, and you practice it like the word hello, and then you practice saying that again and again. But in a conversation, somebody might use something different, like what's up? What's up? All right, so this is just one example, and this is only a difference in vocabulary. Maybe natives will also use, they will not pronounce things clearly. They will speak quickly. You might not understand their accent if they're from a different place that's unfamiliar to you. So there are lots of different things that involve other people and that change the conversation. So you can't practice a language like this. You can't try to learn a bunch of phrases and then expect to be prepared for a conversation. Hopefully everybody gets that point. And the final thing here is it's mostly mental. So a sport like baseball or basketball or something like that, people are developing what you call muscle memory. So you're learning to move in a certain way. You practice a basketball shot or kicking a soccer ball or whatever. In this, with fluency, you do have there's a little bit of moving your mouth and learning how to make a sound, something like that. But typically, or most of the actual, the process of communication and speaking fluently, it's all mental. So it's how much you know, it's how you feel about like your confidence or your ability to understand other people. There are lots of different things, but it's mostly mental. So when we think about all these things, this affects the way we learn in a unique way, all right? So I'll go back and answer questions about this later if anybody is asking, but I want to make sure this is important, or you understand how important this is. Because if you learn individual words and phrases, that's not going to make you fluent, okay? So what does? So what do we do if we only have a little bit of time? And this is the important thing, the real difference between the people who get fluent and the people who do not, all right? So let's erase this. See how much time we've got. Oh, we've already got about 7 minutes. We're like halfway done with this very quick lesson, all right? So what do we do with our time if we've only got 15 minutes a day? What we should be doing is focusing on a specific like a situation or a topic or a voice or maybe some kind of grammar, but I don't really like to think about it like here's a grammar point. It's usually just the situation. So I want to give you a few examples just to give you something very quickly so you can understand how this works. Let's imagine I'm in a situation and someone tells me something surprising. Or I might think that's unbelievable. So surprising, unbelievable. A friend of mine says he went fishing and he caught a fish this big, or like really big, bigger than I can fit on the screen right here. So he tells me something. What are the different ways I might respond to that? So I might say, let's see, are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious? Or even something just shorter like, seriously? Seriously? Or I might say, really? Or if I really don't believe him, I say, oh, like, let's see, you're pulling my leg. Now I'm just giving you a bunch of these things just to show what it's like in a real conversation, because often English learners get into a conversation and then when they can't respond, when they don't understand what other people are saying, that's when they freeze and they lose their words and they lose their confidence. All right. So the point is to be prepared for different situations by learning the different ways that natives communicate. All right. So if you only have a few minutes a day to learn, don't spend your time trying to remember one or two individual phrases. What you want to do is try to get as much input as you can about a particular topic. Okay? So this topic is specifically about surprising or something unbelievable. And the more you hear different natives talking about things that are in this situation, so what does a native say when they're surprised? Now, there was a TV show called Seinfeld. Maybe you have heard of it or you've seen that show before. But one character on that show, her name is Elaine. Whenever she heard something unbelievable, she would say, "Get out! Get out! Get out!" You'll also hear this as like, "Get out of here! Get out of here! Get out of here!" But you can just say, "Get out." All right? So when young kids, like young native English speaking kids are watching that show, or when they were watching it, they would see that and think, oh, in this situation, that's what you could say. All right, but there's not just one way to do it. So rather than trying to get a translation or like look at a grammar point and try to focus on specific vocabulary, what you should be doing is picking a situation or a topic, and again, it's basically the same thing. It's just like what happens in a particular situation. So what happens, or what do I say when I drop something on my head, or if I fall over, or if I'm surprised by doing something. Or you can also get in this same way, you can focus on one person's voice. So I might listen to one person speaking, like you're listening to me, you watch a few of my videos, or if you have a favorite actor or somebody you like watching, listen to their voice again and again. And each time you hear something new from them, it will kind of build your understanding for their voice, all right? And so again, I don't really want to call it like focusing on different grammar points specifically, but the grammar comes from the situation. Okay, so the grammar, if you're trying to understand like a native and you don't have much time to do it, so even now, this video, we're at like 12 minutes into the video already, and I just want to show you what to do if you only have 15 minutes to learn. But you should be focusing on a particular thing, and we're not going to remember a lot of the phrases just one time. And so the important thing to do is that you're doing this every day and you're going back and reviewing this same vocabulary but in different ways. So for a week, you might spend time watching what natives do when they're responding like this. So what do natives do when they're surprised? What do they do when they're angry? What do they do when they're giving a present to somebody else? What do they say when they go to the hospital? So remember, this is a really important point about learning. It's not just one phrase that people would use in a situation. There are many different phrases. So in order to be prepared for conversations, in order to be prepared so you can communicate fluently, this is how you have to learn, all right? So it's a much better use of your time, even if you only have 15 minutes, to get lots of input about a particular topic or a particular situation, all right? Hopefully that makes sense. Now I actually got some notes here. Let me see if there was anything else I wanted to put in here. I guess the last thing I will add to this is that because it is such a mental process, what you can also do is imagine not only yourself speaking, but you can imagine other people saying things. So I might, in my voice, like let's say I hear, I learn a word like, are you serious? So I might imagine like a famous actor or somebody in my head actually saying that to me. So I'm getting, even if I can't get actual other people to respond or to speak with, I can imagine other people saying those same things to me to get this. So I might, if I'm going to say it, like let's say I'm Morgan Freeman, like the actor Morgan Freeman. I'm going to imagine him saying something to me, and like in my voice, I might say, "You're pulling my leg. You're pulling my leg." But Morgan Freeman is like, "You're pulling my leg. You know, he might speak and he's going to sound in a different way, and I can do his voice perfectly in my head, even if I can't do it, you know, perfectly while I'm speaking. So the mental aspect of the learning, this is the kind of thing you should be spending your time doing if you only have, you know, 15 minutes a day. So don't spend your time trying to repeat like one phrase again and again, because remember, in a conversation, if someone doesn't use that expression, then you're not going to be prepared for that. All right. Now, what I call this, I'll just put this up here, make sure everybody can see this. This is just naturally varied review. So naturally varied review means that you're picking a situation, and this is the same way natives get fluent. But remember, it's not just something you get for one day. So right now we've spent about 15 minutes. This is about the span of 15 minutes right here. And if you're getting information and focusing on phrases or vocabulary or pronunciation or whatever those things are, you're getting them all at the same time, but you might want to just focus on one kind of voice, like speaker from the United Kingdom or a speaker from the United States. All right. But the point is to focus on that and do it not just for one day, but you got the next day and the next day and the next day. And it's that varied repetition that gets you fluent. All right. So not you repeating one phrase to yourself, you speaking to yourself, but you can spend time kind of communicating mentally in your head. There's very little of the language that you need to like practice moving your mouth, that kind of thing. I'll add a little bit here for that specifically. Some people worry about their pronunciation. I call this sound transitioning. So it's much easier for you if you're trying to learn a new sound. Let's say there's some language that has like a click in it, like a sound kind of like that. So there's nothing like that in English, but let's say I'm trying to learn some language that does have that. And I can't quite make that sound. I can't jump directly to that sound, but I'm going to transition from one sound to the next until I can find that particular sound. But even that, it's much better for me to listen and also to watch lots of different people saying something similar or even saying the same thing, but around a particular topic. All right? So this is what you should be doing when you're learning by yourself, if you only have about 15 minutes or less. If you have more time, you know, I would actually do more of this. Most of your learning should be doing this, and that way when you get into a conversation, you're already prepared. All right? So that's it for the lesson part of this. If you have questions about what I've explained, or if you'd like to just answer or ask different unrelated questions, let me know. I'll go back and take a look at the chat now. All right, so I want to make sure everybody understands what I'm talking about for this. So this is all very, very important stuff, especially if you don't want to waste your time. All right, let's see here. So hey bro, hey guys, hello from Brazil, from Nicaragua, Guatemala. Got lots of people on the other side of the planet. I am from Brazil. Artemio, nice to see you there. From India. That's weird, looks like the chat got cut off. I've been following you for a while. And for a while, I appreciate what you're doing from Nicaragua. Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. Now is okay. We can hear you well. All right. Let's go back and make sure if I got everybody. So thanks. You're one of the best teachers. Glad to hear it. And thank you for 15 minutes, because sometimes you did this 1 hour and I can listen to you in the car, but not so often I drive. So long 1 hour, we can hear you well. Yeah, so I'm happy to spend more time explaining this if you have questions about it, but I wanted to just make a quick video about what you should be doing with your time. So the most important thing to understand about this is that fluency is a specific kind of skill. All right, it's not like playing the piano or playing an instrument where there's one thing and you're trying to do it perfectly. Okay, what you need to do is be prepared for spontaneous communication. And the only way to do that is to get lots and lots of input. So you don't spend your time trying to repeat one thing. It's the repetition of different things over time that builds, it's basically a network in your mind that allows you to communicate fluently. All right? So when you're learning phrases like this is naturally varied review. We're just focusing on a particular situation, and we want to talk about what do you do in this situation. So what do you say? Well, hello from Chicago, my hometown. Nice to see you there. All right, hello from Jersey, New Jersey. Hi from Indonesia and the Dominican Republic, from Colombia. Okay, nice to see you guys there. Does anybody have any questions about this or anything that I can help you about? Again, I just wanted to focus on what to do in 15 minutes, so I wanted to make a quick video. And again, the rest of this video is just answering questions if you have any. But the main idea, fluency is a specific kind of skill. And so you don't want to just practice one phrase again and again. It's much better to spend your time getting that same phrase from different people, or you're learning different phrases for that same topic. You're getting naturally varied review. All right, get the likes up, friends. Yes, feel free to like and share the video. Now, my videos are not very popular. I think number one, because I don't put a lot of like production quality into them. I talk to people the same way I would teach somebody on the street. You know, I'm just talking with people, or the same way I teach my own kids at home. So I might draw something on the board, but it's just about the varied review that I can give you. And the more entertaining thing on YouTube is to give you a whole bunch of new vocabulary. But if you only review something and see it one time, you will most likely forget that information, and then you're basically just wasting your time. Very nice to see you from Germany. All right, please tell me the exact way to prove my English. Watching the videos is enough. All right, so following this, and here comes another siren. Well, you can listen to some Japanese. Go chui kudasai. Go chui kudasai. Now, this is a perfect example of you know, when I'm coming to Japan and learning. When I stopped learning the traditional way, and by traditional way I mean you're focusing on grammar textbooks and listening practice exercises, that kind of thing. Once I understood I need to focus on situations and connect vocabulary to that, then I'm like, okay, what do I kind of listen for? What should I be focusing on? And so that that ambulance that just drove by here, you know, it's making the siren sound, but it's also got an announcement. Go chui kudasai. Go chui kudasai. Go chui kudasai. What do you think that means? Now, even if you don't understand any Japanese, what do you think that might be saying? So again, you're thinking about the situation, and what is it probably saying? Go chui kudasai. Go chui kudasai. Now, if I get off an elevator, so the elevator opens up, the door is opening or closing, or I'm on the train, I might hear the same thing. Go chui kudasai. What? Hi from Okinawa. De, kono nihongo wakaru ne. Go chui kudasai. Kotae nai de ne. So what do we mean by that? What do you think that means? Go chui kudasai. Now, if you're Japanese, don't answer that question. Go away, please. It could mean go away, please. Yeah, that's one way to think about it. So again, you hear something. I'll write it in English for you. Go chui kudasai. And I know there are Japanese people who do watch my videos, but this should be helpful for a lot of people who do not speak Japanese. But if you hear something like go chui kudasai, and you're thinking, what about the situation that's in? So I'm hearing an ambulance. An ambulance says go chui kudasai, or at like the train doors, or like an elevator. What do you think that means? Go chui kudasai. This is a very good approach, associating situations and sentences. Yes, this is how you learned your native language. This is how you learned your native language, all right? So all these things, go chui kudasai, it just means be careful. Okay. So chui suru, it's like to be careful, to pay attention, to notice, all right? But the point is you're not learning like the grammar. I'm not trying to give you a grammar lesson in Japanese. The whole point is to think like when you hear this, the first time you hear it, you might hear it from an ambulance. It's like, oh, I wonder what they're saying. It's probably be careful or please move out of the way or something like that. But each time you hear it again in a similar situation, again, we have the situation here. Each time you hear it in another situation, the meaning of that becomes clearer. It becomes more understandable to you. And when you can understand something in the language, so if you're understanding something in the target language, you feel much more confident about using something. You're like, I really understand what that means. There are actually words or expressions in Japanese that I just know in Japanese, and it's a bit difficult to translate them in English because I learned them in Japanese rather than translating them through English. All right? But the point is that you're taking a situation and you're understanding the language the same way natives do. And if you don't have much time to do this, it's much better to get like a situation, like when we're telling people to be careful, and how can we get lots of examples of that from different people. So I think I explained a little bit in the last week's, I don't remember if I did a video on YouTube last week. Maybe I did, maybe I don't remember actually. But there are basically two ways to do this. There's by yourself. And the by yourself way to do this, you can do this right on YouTube, is you would look for a specific situation or a specific thing, a specific topic, and then watch a bunch of different videos about that very specific thing. All right? So I talked about fixing cars or baking bread or whatever, but if you watch a bunch of different English videos about that, and I tell the story about when I came to Japan and got different examples of going to a coffee shop and listening to lots of people order food. So the first person says, may I please have this? May I please have a coffee? Maybe the next person, another person says, can I have? So one person says may, another person says can, all right? And then maybe the third person also says, may I have? And then you might hear something different and something different, and then maybe the same thing again. And you'll see a kind of curve. We call this a bell curve of the things that are most common, and then you'll hear some other things like this. But the amazing thing about this is, like, I don't get fluent by trying to learn one of these and practice it a bunch of times. I get fluent by understanding this as the kind of different phrases that people might use in this situation. And once I know that, I feel very confident in that situation. All right? The confidence comes from being prepared for the situation, and you understand the grammar from the situation. So the pronunciation, the grammar, the vocabulary, it's all connected as one thing. So if you're getting even by yourself on YouTube, or if you live in an English-speaking country, or you can go somewhere where there are native English speakers, there are lots of ways to do this. You can do it right now online, right here on YouTube. Again, find a specific topic that you're interested in. It doesn't matter what it is. Forget about learning English lessons on YouTube. I don't watch Japanese lessons on YouTube either. I like to teach on YouTube because there are a lot of people who are trying to learn on YouTube, but they're not really learning in a way that gets them fluent. That's what I focus on for my videos. But you can do this by yourself, all right? And then the other way to do it is if you have someone like me just give you all the examples. And that's what we do in Fluent for Life. So this is where I actually walk you through lots of different examples, and I don't just give you the vocabulary, I'm actually teaching you and explaining to you why we do certain things. It's much more, it's like if you wanted to build a business and you didn't know how to do that, you can go to YouTube and learn, get lots of information about that, but you'd probably rather have someone just show you how to do it, who can give you lots of good examples and explain from failures and successes, that kind of thing, all right? So if you want to do it by yourself, you can, or I can show you how to do it in Fluent for Life. And you can click on the link in the description of this video if you'd like to learn more about that program. I can also answer questions if you have that about Fluent for Life. But let's go back to the chat and see if anybody had anything to ask me. Yep, Jomana, very good. Warning. Yep. All right, let's see. That is okay, we got that one already. Raphael says, hey, Drew, please talk about how natives build their ideas up through phrasal verbs. I do think it's the core of what you're trying to get across, meaning that you have full control of it fluently. All right, that's an excellent topic. So phrasal verbs, that's one of the things that I focus on because it's so commonly used, and this is one of the kind of the foundational pieces of fluency, especially for little kids. They start learning individual words and phrases, and it's usually phrasal verbs that they move up to when they start making more complex ideas. But phrasal verbs allow you to do this in a very simple way. So you just use the phrasal verb actually get across. So to have a point, to get something across to other people, we have a basic idea like a bridge. See, I want to get like from what, you know, where I am on this side of the bridge to the other side. So I want to get across. To get meaning to take a position from here to the other side. So to get across. But we have a more figurative meaning of this. It's like, how do I get something across to you? So when I'm teaching, I'm trying to get information across to you as well. All right, same kind of idea. So natives, Raphael, we're talking about learning in the same way that you would be learning your native language. And it's, again, just getting situations, and you learn very basic things. Like I would usually start teaching my kids, you know, if I'm going to take off the cap of this marker and put on. Now there are different, like more advanced ways of explaining this. I could remove the cap. Remove. To remove the cap. Or I could place the cap like this, to remove and replace the cap. So replace could mean to change with something else, or it can also mean to like put it back on there. All right. So phrasal verbs allow you to make kind of more difficult ideas, but in a simple way, because you're combining simple verbs. All right. Or simple verbs and adjectives, and it's usually 2 or 3 words together. So very simple. But natives are building this up by focusing on a situation. So it's the same exact idea I was talking about earlier, where we have something. The situation is, I have a marker. I want to remove the cap. But a child would not say remove. A child would say take off. All right? So that's the situation, to remove something. And in the same way, a child would learn take off your hat, take off your shirt, take off your shoes. All right, so this is how, again, you're getting naturally varied review. You're getting lots of different examples of something, and that's how you build your fluency automatically. So fluency, most people think, most learners believe that you get fluent by continuing to repeat things, and you actually get fluent by developing your understanding of the language. So when you understand the language like a native, you can speak like one. All right, it's a very little amount of the muscle memory and that kind of thing where I need to learn how to move my mouth in a certain way. The pronunciation becomes much easier after I listen to lots of different people pronounce something. All right, so I might hear the word, I've given this example before, pie. So I am from Chicago in the United States, and I'm speaking particularly clearly so you can understand what I'm saying. And the word pie, like a pie that you eat, like a dessert pie. When I was younger, I had another family that I would visit with my family, and the wife of the guy he would be making, or she would make a pie for dessert. But she was from the southern United States, maybe from Georgia or something. And she would say, y'all want some pie? Y'all want some pie? Some pie? And this was like a thing in my family. We talked about that. Wow, we really like her voice, her accent, her dialect. So she was an American, you know, fluent English speaker, but she sounded different. All right. So y'all want some pie? Y'all want some pie? Like, do you all want some pie? So it's the same word, but people pronounce it differently. So what most learners do, again, they're getting one example of pie from like a clear teacher like me. But it's not enough to prepare you for conversations, because you need to hear that from lots of different speakers. That will improve your listening, because you'll be, again, prepared for the different kinds of speech that you'll encounter in real life. All right? So you'll hear me say pie. Someone else might say pie or pie. Y'all want some pie? Y'all want some pie? Y'all want some pie? Y'all want some pie? All right, so there are different ways of saying this. It's the same word, but people pronounce it differently. So it's better, don't just repeat after me, say, okay, Drew said pie, so I'm going to repeat after him. You don't need to try to repeat after me. Just listen to more people say the same word. All right? I know this sounds weird. It seems like you should practice the language, but the practice is getting lots of examples. That's the practice. All right, some pie, that's right. Lakpa, that's right. Pie. All right. All right. Hopefully, Raphael answered that question for you. All right. So, Luis. And okay, so your English is so clear. I like to hear you. Yes, I'm speaking particularly clearly so people can understand what I'm saying. But that's part of the reason you need to get lots of different examples of related speech. So listen to me say something and listen to other people. So this is what we do in Fluent for Life. So you will hear me say something. You will hear someone from Ireland say the same thing. You will hear a different native speaker. You will hear a person from England say the same thing. All right? So that's how we train your listening, which improves your pronunciation. All right. Let's see. You are amazing. Oh, thank you. You're too kind. Can you apply a discount for Christmas? A discount? A discount for what? I'm originally from India, living in Florida. Why do all natives have a deep voice? I don't think they do. Lots of natives don't have a deep voice. When I speak my native language, I speak with a deep voice, but when I switch to English, my voice suddenly becomes squeaky and high pitch. I would have to hear you speak, but that's probably more about confidence than the way you speak. Like, it's not about the language itself. So you might personally maybe not feel completely comfortable with your English, and that would be probably a better reason or a stronger reason why you would change the words or why you would pronounce things differently. I've read the words early days. I've thought its meaning is last days, but found out the true meaning. How can I avoid this kind of mistake? All right, I'm going to ask you guys, how can we solve that problem? How can we solve that problem? So we got a question about some vocabulary. So people will hear something, a learner will hear something, in this case, early days. And let's see, what's the name of that? Sorry. Derceau? Let me know if I pronounced that incorrectly. I'm guessing that's French. It sounds like a French name. Derceau Barquet. So if you learn a word, you hear this in a conversation, early days. And my daughters do this all the time. So okay, thank you. All right. So my daughters will get some kind of, they'll hear a word or something and they will say, Daddy, what does that mean? Or how do you say this? Or something like that. And I always ask them the same thing. I say, where did you hear that? And I try to get them to really think about what we've been talking about in this video. What's the situation? All right? So the situation leads to the vocabulary. It's not the other way around. So this is why natives understand vocabulary from the situation rather than thinking like translating in one word to something else. So early days might be something you hear like in the early days of my teaching career. So in the early days of my teaching career, I was not a very good teacher. In the early days of my teaching career, I was not a very good teacher. Or in the early days of the war, there was a lot of confusion. In the early days of the war. So you're hearing something like, okay, in the early days of something, and someone might say, well, in the early days of my like college life, I didn't study very much. But later, so in the early days, let's say we imagine like someone's talking about their college life. So in the early days of my college life, I didn't study much. But later, I became a more serious student. And so in that way, you think like, okay, it's probably like, a before or earlier part of something, because they talk about later, so after that, that's something else. So we know early days is not going to be the end of something. And you can think about that also. Another example, again, you're getting the naturally varied review that you get. It's coming from different uses around the same situation. So different speakers using it in different, different times, but it's usually about the situation. So early, I can talk about waking up early in the morning. So let's say this is like 7 a.m., this is 10 a.m., it's in the morning. So right now in Japan, it is 10:40 in the morning. So it's not very early. Most people are at work if they're going to work already. But 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, this is early. I have to wake up early tomorrow. And as you hear all of these different uses of early, it becomes, oh, okay, I understand what that means. There's like early, and then you might also learn late. So later. So early in the morning or later in the morning. And so early days would mean talking about like these, instead of minutes or hours, we're talking about days in some kind of time period. All right, so the early days of something. So instead of trying to get a translation or go to a dictionary, try to use your understanding of the situation, and that will help you figure out things like this. So when I talk to my daughters and they say, Daddy, I heard this phrase, can you tell me what that means? I say, okay, what was happening when you heard that phrase? So they watch a cartoon and they say, oh, this was happening. I say, okay, so what do you think that means? And then they start thinking about it, like, okay, I understand what it means. So my job, even as a teacher, is really, it's not to teach. I know that sounds funny. My job is not to teach. It's to help you understand something, because when you think of something yourself, then you think, like, I got it. Now I feel very confident about that, okay? So my job is, that's why I call myself a fluency guide rather than a teacher, because I'm not really trying to just tell you information, all right? But now you make me think about my hair. Well, you brought that up. So you were curious about hearing about that. But again, it's not a bad thing. It just means you didn't understand it from the situation, and that's fine. So when you first hear something, usually you will not understand that. And understanding develops over time as you get more examples. So you need to get different, varied examples to make your understanding stronger. You can't just hear the same phrase. If I keep repeating early days, early days, early days, early days, that's not going to help you understand early days. But if I give you lots of different related examples, again, I'm calling this naturally varied review. As I give you more naturally varied review, it becomes obvious, all right? So it goes from unclear to clear. In the early days of you learning English, maybe you had trouble understanding some things, but over time you learned more, okay? So this is why, again, I keep telling you this. We began the video talking about what to do if you only have 15 minutes a day. Really, even if you have an hour a day, you should be doing the same thing. But this is especially important for people who don't have much time. You want to take something and focus on it and get that in lots of different ways. But don't feel bad. Really, this is another important point for people. Don't feel bad about not understanding something, all right? I saw some other comments, but I want to make this very clear because, again, fluency is such a mental issue, okay? It's a mental process. It's not like learning to throw a punch or something. It's a mental process, so if you don't feel confident about what you're learning, and you won't feel prepared to speak. All right, let me give you another example of this. Again, this is very important. You notice me using the word again, because I don't want to repeat myself exactly, but I want to give you related examples. It's that naturally varied review. All right. Most of you probably learned English in school, and your teacher usually had some flashcards. And the flashcard would have a word, like let's just say, now, if I give you a word, I'm going to teach you a word. This is not a word in any language. But let's say I'm teaching you a language. I show you this, and I say, sin. Let me know in the comments what you think that means. Just tell me, what does sin mean? What does sin mean? So I'm teaching you a word in a new language. I show you a flashcard of something, and I'm showing you, okay, sin. I show you this and I say sin. I don't tell you anything else. Let me know what you think that means. What does sin mean? This is just a quick experiment to prove something to you about language learning. All right. Any ideas? Post it in the chat right now. The name of owner. The name of the owner. The name of the owner of this. Let's see. Pot. Vase. Flower. All right, let's see if we have any more examples of this. Plant. Vase. All right, next, I'm going to give you another picture. But notice something here. Even this picture, and I give you one word, it's not clear what I'm talking about. You don't understand, okay? So there's a whole, there are many different things that you could assume I'm talking about. So the teacher knows what the picture is, but the student does not. Okay? Now make a sentence. Okay? Even if I make a sentence, I'd be making a sentence in a different language. So the sentence would be like, Sin kimpab si hua shu. And I just made that up. It doesn't mean anything. But now I'm going to give you another one. Now what does sin mean? Now what does sin mean? This is the situation. See, the situation itself, from one situation, it's not always clear. Definitely pot, yes. Okay, now you guys get it? So a good teacher makes the lesson understandable. All right, this is not understandable. This is more understandable. Okay, we're definitely talking about a pot. All right, but the main idea is that the lesson is not one thing. You don't get a lesson from one flashcard. It's a series of things that come together that builds your fluency and understanding. Okay? Does everybody get this idea? So I have an app called Frederick. And what we did for designing, we had to design over 8,000 icons, so the images, like a flashcard kind of thing, for Frederick. All right? And so one of the things we did is instead of just having one icon, you have multiple icons that you look at. And each time you look at a different icon, it becomes easier to understand what that is. All right? And it's the same way in, just in everyday life. You will learn a word or phrase, and the first time you learn it, it's not 100% clear. It's like maybe, 80% clear. And you hear it again, it's like, oh, now you're up to 90%. And then you hear something again as you get enough examples. Then when you're 100% confident about something, that's when you feel really excited about speaking because you know you won't make a mistake. All right? Now, it looks like there were a bunch of questions that popped up here. Let me go back and make sure I get these. All right. All right, Muhammad says, okay, wait, make sure I go back. Vikash says, could you explain the grammar of using would be, you just have said it, can be used in the present, in a present sentence. Well, yeah, you can say I would, it would be good to practice this way. It would be good if we do something right now. You can't say that. But remember, you should be focusing on situations. Grammar comes from situations. So rather than thinking about grammar and trying to remember a particular grammar point, you have to think about the situation itself, and that will help you understand the grammar. All right. So hopefully people got, I thought it was recent days. So recent, yes, recent would be closer to now. So just like the idea of recently, like I recently did. All right. What about Cambly? Did you recommend Cambly? Oh, Cambly. Oh, that was many years ago. You mean Cambly? Yeah, if you want to spend your time practicing with somebody, you can, but this is more efficient. It's a more efficient use of your time. You want to see more examples of native speakers actually communicating rather than speaking with other teachers. Because other teachers, or someone who's trained to help you speak, they're not actually preparing you for conversations. So this is why in Fluent for Life, we actually give you real examples of native speakers communicating. Julio is a good explanation. Glad to hear it. Yep, Very good explanation. All right, also, I have done something and I had done something and he had done something, had differentiate between them. Again, watch the video. If you go back on my channel and watch the video about have, I think I did that last month, and we talk about that specific thing. But again, it's going from the situation, to the vocabulary or grammar. Raphael says, what I meant is that how natives can swap one words around to reason their point, whereas non-natives learn, like if they were memorizing chunks without. Yeah. So again, Raphael, this is the exact example I gave. If we're going to contrast, we're going to compare the way a learner learns and the way a native learns. So a learner, they usually begin with a word or phrase or grammar. Okay, I'm not gonna write this quickly because I want to be quick. But they begin with a word or phrase or grammar, and then usually they try to translate that, or they're going to study some rules. They're trying to memorize something. Or they're going to use a word list, or they might use, it's basically all the traditional ways of learning a language. They might use spaced repetition. Spaced repetition means we're going to take a word and we're going to show it to you, and then we're going to wait an hour and show it to you again and again and again. I'm not a big fan of spaced repetition because it's much better to get naturally varied review. Instead of learning one word, you learn a bunch of them, and the network builds your memory much faster than spaced repetition does. Okay? But learners are doing this, and natives are going to get, again, they begin with, what do natives begin with? The situation. Everything comes from the situation, because the point is not to translate, it's to understand in the language. So if I'm learning English, I want to spend my time listening to native English speakers talking or explaining things about a particular situation. So the situation then leads to the grammar or the vocabulary and the pronunciation. All these things are connected, but you'll also hear many different examples of something. So I just gave earlier in this video an example of being surprised or thinking something is unbelievable, and gave a few different examples of how a native might respond in that situation. So I hear something or I see something, a friend of mine is telling me a story, I say, well, that's unbelievable. Or wow, are you serious? Seriously? Really? You're pulling my leg. These are all different ways of responding to that. And the reason a native can communicate fluently is because they're prepared for all these different ways of expressing the same thing. So learners are learning like one word or phrase. So in Japanese, as an example, you might learn the word like for surprise is like odoroita. Or I might learn like in a real situation, I watch what happens, what do Japanese people do when they're surprised by something? It's like bikkuri shita, bikkuri usoyo. So they're saying different things but in that same situation. And so as a child learns all these different ways of saying something, and they might say, one thing most of the time, but they're prepared for what other people are saying. And that's why it's so important to spend your time getting input from lots of different people about the same situation. So on Monday, maybe you're just learning about being surprised and you get input from lots of different people. On Tuesday, you're getting input from maybe some different people, but it's still talking about that same situation. The point is to feel 100% confident about something. You might not know every phrase, but that's fine. You'll understand most of what people are talking about, but you'll be prepared in conversations, and that preparedness is what gives you confidence. All right, let me see if I got. All right, so in my case, I'm a fluent speaker of English. I speak advanced English. However, because I'm in college and intend to continue to higher education, I want to take my English to the next level. What should I do? Well, Well, if you're already fluent, then just keep learning like this. Keep learning like a native speaker. So a native speaker just continues to broaden their understanding with learning more topics, but still learning in this same way. So the native is always focusing on, again, situations and learning that way. All right, so natives, but thanks. Anyway, you really changed the way I see language learning, and all started when I saw your visual guide to phrasal verbs video. Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, so again, the visual guide to phrasal verbs is showing you situations, and then we begin with situations, and then how do you learn from that? So the visual guide to phrasal verbs, if you do not know what that is, this is another one of my programs. This is also included in Fluent for Life, but you can click on the link in the video below this, in the description below this. Maji, oh yeah, Maji mo ne. E maji ka. Uso yo. So again, Japanese people, it's the same thing in every language. There's not just one way to say something. There are many ways to express something, and you become comfortable with certain expressions. So when you see your friends, you listen to your friends speak, if you pay attention to them, they will have certain phrases that they use often. So I might say, like if you watch my videos, you'll hear me use, I don't know, like, or whatever. So I'm giving some examples. I might say, whether you speak Spanish or French or whatever, so I say that like and you're like, oh, okay, that means if I'm going to give a list of something, but I don't want to list every language. So that's the situation. That's what Drew is talking about. Magical. All right, I can understand you, but I can't speak. So again, the reason people can understand me is I'm speaking slowly and clearly, number one, but number two, because they're only getting input from teachers, rather than getting input from the real world. So again, what we do in Fluent for Life, for people that can understand me, we want to get you up here to where you can understand native speakers. And it's really difficult to try to jump up to this level. So what we do is we give you some steps to get there. It's much easier to get to that level where we take actual, like regular speech that's difficult, it's got difficult vocabulary, the things that you don't usually hear in a real, or in a textbook or in a classroom. It's faster English, and the accents are much less clear. And so if we can take that English and make it easier to understand, and then have you listen to that and get lots of different examples of that same information, that same language, you will feel very prepared when you get to real conversations. So if you understand me, but you don't understand natives, this is how we get you there. So this is Fluent for Life. All right, let's see. Getting some more good questions over here. Your English is clear, but some people talk and it's hard to understand. Yeah. So I can also speak and have it be difficult to understand. I do some examples of that sometimes. Could you please tell me exactly what we can do in 15 minutes to be fluent in English? Go back and watch the video again. The solution really is to get lots of input. It's not to speak. So if you only have 15 minutes, don't try to repeat after people. Don't try to spend your time practicing speaking or something. Just get lots of examples of people so you feel confident about using the language when you do speak. All right? The language learning process is just about getting input. I have to imagine a situation and write down about the situation. Is that an example to be fluent? No, you watch. It's a very concrete, a very regular example of something. You watch native speakers talking about something or being in a certain situation, and then what do they say? What do I say when I'm baking a cake? What do I say when I'm before I go to sleep? Like before I go to sleep, what do I say to people? I say good night. Or I say sleep well, or I say sleep tight. There are different ways I could say that. And so if you listen to different natives talking about that same situation, you will become fluent automatically just by listening to them. Your pronunciation will improve, your vocabulary will improve, your grammar will improve. This is how you got fluent in your native language, okay? And it's the only way you will get fluent in English if you want to become a fluent speaker. Some people don't care about actually communicating fluently. Maybe they just want to have, understand movies or something like that. That's fine. Can I define the word exaggeration? Exaggerating. Is it nervousness? Well, when do you hear that? When do you hear that? Again, natives, learners. So learners are looking for a definition. Natives are thinking about situation. So when do you hear that? So the word exaggerate, or exaggeration, pardon my poor doctor handwriting over here. I should be a doctor. So instead of giving a definition of this, when do you hear that word? When do you see that word? When do you, like if you're reading it, if you're in a story, like if a friend of mine is telling me, hey, I caught a fish this big in my bathtub. I caught a fish this big in my bathtub. Say, I mean, that's some bullshit right there. You're exaggerating. Now maybe he caught maybe a fish this big. There's probably no fish at all in his bathtub. But let's say he went out fishing in like a lake or something, and I'm pretty sure like the fish in that lake are this big. The big fish is that big, but he gets a fish this big. Wow, he must be exaggerating. He must be exaggerating. All right. So it's the situation that helps me understand the vocabulary. But I don't want to hear just one example. I want many examples of that. How else might somebody be exaggerating something? So if I'm in a job interview, maybe I'm saying like, yeah, I can do this and that, and I've got all these skills and lots of experience, but I don't really, I'm just exaggerating. I'm exaggerating. So I'm taking something at like some level and making it bigger. I'm exaggerating something. And the more examples you get of that thing, like a word or something, the more situations you get when you're using that something. Here is a face. I'm going to draw two eyes and a smile. Here is another face. I'm going to draw two eyes and an exaggerated smile. You get it? Okay. Here's a smile, here's an exaggerated smile. And as you learn that, as you get these different examples, your mind, you can feel it expanding. You should feel something when you learn that. You're like, oh wow, like now I understand what that means. All right? You don't get an understanding from a definition, you get understanding from lots and lots of examples of something. Okay? It got kind of quiet in the chat. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So this is an exaggeration. I'm not like telling a lie. I'm exaggerating something. Like if you've ever had a caricature drawn of you. So you sit down and they draw kind of a cartoon picture of you. So maybe like in real life, you have, there's like a small space or a small gap between your teeth. But a caricature artist might draw you like this. It's like, wow, like we're going to exaggerate that. Okay? So as you're learning these different examples, that's how you develop the fluency, because you feel confident about the vocabulary. Now I understand what exaggerate means, so I feel confident using it. Okay? You don't get fluent by repeating the word exaggerate. Exaggerate, exaggerate, exaggerate. So my teacher said exaggerate, but now someone pronounces it a little bit differently and I'm not prepared for that. But if I hear different people use the word exaggerate, I hear different situations of that, that's when I feel confident about using something. Does this make sense? Let me know in the chat if everybody gets what I'm saying here, because this will get you fluent if you understand this, if you understand this idea. All right. All right, Vikesh, exaggeration is when someone tells you that it was huge and it really, yeah. So again, you can give different examples of that like a definition, but if you just, okay, we're going to get lots of, wow, I'm going to show some examples of something like, wow, we're really exaggerating something like that. All right. Sorry, I'm quite fluent in my mind, but when it comes to speaking, words do not come to mind. How can I speak effortlessly? So this is it. The same thing I've been talking about all video. If you want to be a fluent speaker, you need to get lots of input. It's not about you if you're not feeling confident in your mind, or if you're feeling confident in your mind but not when you're in real conversations. It's usually because you didn't get enough input. You didn't get enough examples of like other people. All right, Durso says, for instance, practicing with other people online. How can I catch different speakings about the same situation? All right. Yeah, you don't need to get it from practicing with other people. Like I mentioned earlier, if you go on YouTube, fix car engine. So if I search for fix car engine or how to fix car engine, and I get specific, how to fix Toyota of a certain kind of car, whatever, how do I fix a Mercedes-Benz XZQ engine? I don't think that's even a real car name, but I don't know anything about cars. But if I'm looking for that, I'm going to find a bunch of videos on YouTube about how to fix that engine. And I'm going to watch those, and I'm going to hear like a lot of the same vocabulary from these different people. I'm also going to hear some different vocabulary. I'm also going to hear some different accents. Okay? But each time I watch a new video about that topic, I get stronger and stronger about my understanding. It's my understanding that allows me to speak, because understanding leads to confidence, which leads to fluency. So you don't try to spend your time like speaking with lots of different people. That's, again, it's a waste of time. What would I do? I have 15 minutes. I'm going to call my friend and try to like talk with him. I don't have time for that. So I do have time for this. All right? So this is what we do in Fluent for Life. I want to talk about pets. So I'm going to listen to different people talking about pets. I'm going to listen to stories about pets. I'm going to see different like short examples about pets. I'm really going to focus on that. So this is a very efficient way to get fluent. It means like you're going to learn something that you need to learn, but you can do it very quickly, so in a short amount of time. We're going to learn a bunch of different examples. Again, you can do this by yourself if you want to, but Fluent for Life actually takes you through the process and shows you how to do it. All right? All right, I watch a lot about computer programming languages. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, then keep watching those videos. So you will learn about computer programming and you will learn about English. All right. Greetings from Turkey, 5 a.m., but I'm here to listen to you. Great, glad to hear it. All right, Raphael, so you mentioned ones that we get fluent word by word. Could you please talk about it again? I'm confused about fortunate, unfortunate. All right. Yeah, sure. Now, one of the things I do as I'm trying to help you learn is I try to compare different things. So it's much easier for our brain to understand that way. So what most people think is happening when they think about fluency, so we got like fluency over here, and then we got time. And over time, learners are trying to learn more vocabulary. So each day I'm going to try to learn 5 new words or something like that. And so they continue to learn more and more new words, but they don't become more fluent over time. Most of the people who watch my videos, they have this problem. All right? So they've been learning, even if they are good students, they're trying to learn lots of vocabulary. Each day I'll learn 5 new words or 10 new words or something like that. All right? But they learn more, but they don't increase in fluency. So they're spending more time, but fluency doesn't increase. All right? And the reason this happens is because fluency doesn't come from increasing your vocabulary. Fluency doesn't come from increasing your vocabulary. All right? If you can't use this fluently, then you will definitely not be able to use this fluently. So this is why I say you get fluent 1 word at a time as you learn more. So I might hear a word like I taught you guys the word sin in a different language. All right? So just by giving you some more examples about that. When you feel confident about that 1 word, that's when you can use it fluently. So fluency, your fluency in this word is independent of this word over here. And this is why you can use some words fluently and other words you just forget them because you haven't learned them well enough, you don't understand them well enough, you can't use them well enough. Okay? So you don't get fluent by learning more words. You get fluent by really understanding the vocabulary you have. Okay? Does that make sense? So hopefully this is the idea about getting fluent word by word. So if you don't understand something, then you keep reviewing it and seeing it in different ways until you do understand that. But you don't move on to new words. Now, the reason most people learn this way is because of basically how our brain works. Our brain is most excited by new information. So we don't want to review something again. It's much more fun to learn new vocabulary. So people want to watch a new YouTube video about different vocabulary. There's like complete no connection at all to what, like, some new thing that we learn. All right? So you will, on like most YouTube videos, it's like, here are 10, phrasal verbs or whatever that like don't have anything to do with anything else. And there's a lot of good vocabulary, but people don't learn it effectively. So they learn one thing and then jump to something completely different. It's the review, and the thing that I figured out was the naturally varied review. So the naturally varied review is the key to fluency because your brain will be bored if you just try to repeat something again and again. But if you can get slightly different versions of that vocabulary, your brain will be interested and you will learn the actual fluency you need, or you will develop the actual fluency you need to communicate. So you don't get fluent by learning more vocabulary. And most of this, like you will probably learn it and then forget that vocabulary. But if you focus on one thing, like just this month, you're only going to focus on fixing cars, or you're only going to focus on, painting your nails or something like that. Whatever that thing is, it doesn't matter. You can find videos on YouTube for anything. We have 100 different topics in Fluent for Life, and we take you through the process of building fluency in each set of vocabulary. So for each conversation that we focus on, you get fluent in that. And then you can use that vocabulary to talk about other things. So that's how your fluency, you basically build it incredibly quickly. So within the first 30 days of the program, you're speaking more fluently, rather than trying to learn more words and then you forget them. All right? So that's what I mean by you get fluent word by word. So either you get fluent in that vocabulary, either you understand it or you do not. If you don't understand it, don't move to new vocabulary, get more examples. Really understand something so you can use it fluently, or you will not feel confident speaking. All right. Let's see. Hi, this is Jesualdo from Brazil. Nice to see you there. I think TED lectures are nice for this goal. Yep, you can watch different TED lectures, but again, like TED lectures are good for like the situation of how do you deliver a lecture. So that's the kind of, like, first we're going to do this, and like here's my opening. So how, and we talked about that, I think, on a recent Instagram video I did about giving a presentation. Now, even just beginning a presentation, you focus on a particular thing and start teaching or explaining things from there. So let's see, good point. How to properly pronounce the word instantly. Instantly. And you will hear, like, British speakers might say instantly with the T, the second instantly. But in regular American English, instantly. Now, if you want to hear me pronounce a whole bunch of words, get Frederick. I pronounce over 2,000 words and sentences in the app, so you can listen to my beautiful voice all day. Instantly. But remember that your pronunciation and your ability to communicate comes from getting lots of different examples. It's not just hearing me speak. So I'm speaking very clearly so you can understand. So other people in the real world will not be speaking that way. So in Fluent for Life, we give you examples of people who are not clear. All right? All right, let's see if we got any more questions. I think maybe that's it, though. Thanks, English Anyway. Yeah, it's my pleasure, Fabricio. Yep, I think we got everybody. All right, well, so this is it, really. If you want to be fluent, then it's, again, a much better use of your time to get lots more input so you really understand language, and then you get that from focusing on situations rather than trying to get definitions or focusing on grammar rules or other things like that that people typically use when they're trying to learn a language. All right? So don't think like a learner, think like a native. Focus on situations, get lots of examples of that, and you can do that either by yourself on YouTube by focusing on a particular thing, or you can come and join me in Fluent for Life by clicking on the link in the description. Even if you do not join the program, I highly recommend you learn about how this process works, because I explain everything I'm talking about. You can see me, I've like written it down for you so you can understand how the process works. All right, looks like Sisse or Kisse, let me ask I have a question, please. Durso, thank you very much. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yes, if you have a question, please go ahead. Just tell me the question. No need to ask if you have a question, but you got to be quick. I'm getting tired. Let me get my bottle of water over here. All right. So how can I improve my past perfect tense? Remember, think about when people are using the past perfect. Think about when people are using the past perfect. All right. Think about when people are using the present perfect or the present continuous or whatever that happens to be. You should go back and watch the have video. So I did kind of work with learners a little bit about that specific thing. But remember, you don't want to focus on a grammar point. You want to understand when are people using that, and then get examples of that kind of thing. That's also another thing we do. Fluent for Life is organized by grammar point, so you can actually get lots of examples of a particular thing, like the present continuous or the past perfect or whatever, but we don't teach it to you that way. You get lots of examples and then see native speakers actually using that in different ways. All right? But I think that's it. If you have any questions, you can post them. I will make this video available after the live is done. Do click on the link if you'd like to learn more about how to become a fluent speaker, and actually, like, if you, again, have been learning for a long time but you still struggle to speak, Fluent for Life is going to get you fluent guaranteed. Why is it hard to reach C1 from B2? Do you have any advice about that? Yes, the answer to every question is this. Women, life, freedom. All right? So the answer to every question is this. It's basically like you focus on situations, get lots of different examples so you feel confident about being in that situation. And then you know the vocabulary and the pronunciation and all that. So when people use the past perfect, well, you got to think about that. So first, let's say you're like completely by yourself and you don't know when to use past perfect. Go to Google and type in past perfect, like past perfect English tense. And then look at the examples that you get from different situations like that. All right, so you want to look at different examples, and instead of focusing on the grammar itself, it's like what is happening? In what time period? When are people talking about something? Are we talking about something that people did and then they stopped doing it? Like I used to do something, or are we talking about something that like we started doing years ago and we continue to do it today? All right, try to think like a native. Think about how a native would figure that out. All right, the more you can think for yourself, the better you can become a fluent speaker. The faster it will happen too. All right. So if you have any questions, you can also mail us at info@englishanyone.com. But you will notice basically all of my videos focus on this particular idea. I've been teaching this for almost 20 years. Almost 20 years, crazy. All right, Raphael, people keep coming in with last questions over here. Have you seen the guy who filmed his baby develop language comprehension up to its first word? He lectured on TED Talk. I think that was like a couple of years ago. I saw something where it was a guy, he mapped like the language and in his house or something like that. I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but yeah, it was just talking about like the developing of the language. But that, I mean, what I'm telling you is what that is. I don't need like a crazy science experiment or a year-long or many-year-long thing to know how this works. And anybody can figure this out. This is exactly the same way you would teach your own children. All right. So again, those things are always great to know, but you can see like it's the variation of something that gets you fluent. It's not like a repeated example of the exact same thing. How can I improve my listening skill and understanding fast talking? Yeah, same thing. Go back and watch this video. That's what you need to do. So when I release this, I'll release this, where can I get words, different situations quickly? Fluent for If you'd like to see this all prepared for you, just click on the link in the description and you can go to that to learn more about Fluent for Life, or you can do it yourself and just look for different situations like on YouTube when people are talking about wrestling alligators or fixing shoes or running marathons or whatever that thing is. Exaggerate. Thank you, Drew. Been watching you for 10 years. Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, thank you. Where can I get, Anders, I hope to see you again soon, dude. Thank you. So, yep. Well, it's been a pleasure helping you guys. Do you believe it is possible to be fluent in more than 10 languages? Depends on what you mean by fluent in those 10 languages. I think you can, if you learn this way, I don't know of anybody who teaches this way for other languages, like that has a system this efficient for learning languages. And this also, this is for higher level learners. It's not for beginners. So if you had someone who could, theoretically, it's possible, I guess. I mean, I would like to learn that way, you know, but nobody else can really teach me the way I teach. It's possible to do it, but I don't know of anybody else who does. But it is, if you could learn a bunch of different languages this way, I think you would not. But I'm sure it's possible, but learning the traditional way, it certainly would take a long time to do that, to be really conversationally fluent, and also understand different aspects of culture. So I've been learning Japanese for, I don't know, like 20 years or something, and there's still lots that I don't know. This is exactly the way that you're telling you the baby only speaks after understanding through naturally varied review. Yeah, so nobody, I am like the first person to explain naturally varied review, but I'm just giving a name to that thing. It's what people do. So I didn't like invent any new way of learning. I'm just trying to describe what people do for language learning. So if you're, and when you understand that, it's helpful for actually becoming fluent. So if you think about what you really need for fluency, you can, it's like a pretty easy, like, okay, you need to understand the real vocabulary that natives use. Okay, that makes sense. Like if you don't know the words, then you can't understand them or use them. But you also have to understand like a native, because if you're thinking about words and translations when you speak, or like you're learning through words and translations, you will also think about words and translations when you speak. And then the third part is getting the naturally varied review, because that's what's actually building your fluency. So it's building your deeper understanding of something rather than hearing something one time. So even if I help you understand something like a native, so I can teach you Japanese like a native, like with a lesson in Japanese, all in Japanese, but you would probably forget that. So you need the review. The review is what builds the understanding and gives you the memory, so that you can use something in an actual conversation. So you have to do all three of those things. But if you do those three things, or you get those three things, then you will become a fluent speaker guaranteed. But you notice what you don't need to live in an English-speaking country. You don't need to have a native English-speaking friend. You don't need to go to, I don't know, like in most of the things, you don't need speaking practice. All the things that people think they need, you don't actually need. It's really the understanding of something. When you feel really strong, when you feel like you understand something very well, then you can actually use it. All right. All right. Now I'm really going to get out of here before I get any more, but everybody, okay, we've got thank you. Nice to see you. Okay. And hopefully go back and check higher comments, make sure I didn't miss anything. But this is it. I really want to distill, really want to get to the heart of what you need to become a fluent speaker, and that's really it. All right, thanks a lot, Drew. I love your work. Glad to hear it. K, I like you got the K in brackets. That's pretty cool. I like that. All right, have a fantastic day. If you'd like to learn more about how to do this, all the stuff I've explained, it's all written down, nice, easy to understand on the page for Fluent for Life. Even if you do not join the program, it will help you understand more about how you should be learning. How long can it take to reach a native level while at B1? It depends on the, I couldn't answer that for an individual person. It depends like on how you learn. Really, everything depends on how you learn. But in Fluent for Life, we get people like from this level, like anybody who can watch and understand this video, but you're not speaking fluently, we can get you fluent in 30 days or less by following this system. So you're fluent in that vocabulary. Remember, you get fluent in particular vocabulary. You don't get fluent in the whole language. All right? I'm off for some pie. Raphael getting some pie over there. Some pie. All right, you all have a fantastic day. I will make this video available on YouTube. Go back and watch it again. The first 15 minutes really covers everything. But if you'd like to learn more, click on the link in the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.